Latest world conflict breaking news headlines. Around the globe, pressure is building, from the waters of the Pacific to the political fault lines of the Middle East. A handful of critical hotspots are drawing the world's attention. In the next few minutes, we're going to break down 5 key zones of conflict. Are they associated flare ups, or is there something bigger connecting them all? This is your unfiltered briefing. Let's get straight to it. First, we head to the South China Sea. Tensions there are on a knife's edge after recent U.S. military maneuvers. In late October, the navies of the United States, Australia, New Zealand, and the Philippines conducted a joint deployment inside the Philippines exclusive economic zone. The exercise included tactical maneuvers and anti submarine drills, a clear signal aimed at reinforcing maritime security in the region. The drill was closely watched, with at least 5 Chinese naval vessels spotted nearby. This follows an order from the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command to prepare for a show of force to counter Chinese activity near disputed waters, though it's unclear if or when that specific operation will occur. Meanwhile, the USS Nimitz carrier strike group is currently underway in the South China Sea. This deployment has seen its share of trouble. On October 26, a Seahawk helicopter and a Super Hornet fighter jet from the Nimitz crashed in 2 separate incidences, though all crew members were safely rescued. On the second front is the Caribbean, where signs of a major U.S. military buildup are pointing towards Venezuela. The old Roosevelt Roads naval base in Puerto Rico, closed for 2 decades, is buzzing with activity again. Recent satellite imagery and on-the-ground reports show restored taxiways, newly erected personal tents, and the presence of advanced military aircraft, including F-35 fighters and C-17 cargo planes. This comes as the U.S. also expands facilities at civilian airports in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, even after building a new munitions depot. While Pentagon officials state there are no current plans to permanently reopen the base, the scale of this temporary staging operation, the largest since the 1994 Haiti intervention, is seen by many analysts as a direct pressure campaign against the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Third, to Iraq, where a direct warning has been issued. In a recent phone call, U.S. Secretary of Defense delivered a stark message to his Iraqi counterpart. Haggis announced that U.S. military operations in the region were imminent and warned that any interference from pro-Iran armed factions in Iraq would be met with a decisive response. This ultimatum comes after repeated calls from Washington for the disarmament of these militias, which the U.S. says undermine Iraq's sovereignty and pilfer its resources for Iran. With Iraqi elections approaching, Washington appears to be drawing hard line against Iranian influence, forcing Baghdad to walk a tightrope between its powerful allies. The forefront is the tense border between Israel and Lebanon. A U.S. brokered ceasefire in November 2024 was meant to calm hostilities, but the peace is fragile. Cross-border strikes have continued, and according to Lebanon's health ministry, at least 300 people have been killed since the truce began. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu recently accused Hezbollah of rearming and warned that Israel would act as necessary to defend itself. Israeli officials claim Hezbollah has succeeded in partially rebuilding its military infrastructure and has been smuggling rockets from Syria, with Israel vowing to prevent Hezbollah from reestablishing a major threat. The risk of conflict reigniting into a larger war remains dangerously high. Finally, a fifth and often overlooked front, the escalating war on narco-terrorism in the Pacific. A U.S. Coast Guard surge known as Operation Pacific Viper is aggressively targeting smuggling routes from Central and South America. The operation recently hit a major milestone, seizing over 100,000 pounds of cocaine since it began in August. A deputy commander for the U.S. Coast Guard Pacific area called the seizures a remarkable achievement and a clear sign that the U.S. is accelerating its counter-narcotics operation to dismantle the criminal networks that fuel global instability. 5 fronts, 5 flashpoints, from military exercises in the South China Sea to a base reactivation in the Caribbean, and stark warnings in the Middle East. The global security landscape is shifting. We're seeing a more assertive U.S. military posture, simmering conflicts threatening to boil over, and the lines between regional disputes becoming increasingly blurred. The question is no longer if these fires will spread, but how they might connect. This is constantly developing situation. For daily briefings and analysis to help you make sense of it all, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll keep tracking these stories and bringing you the facts as they emerge. Stay informed.